Hello, everyone. This is another episode of the Virtual Voice. Today, we're talking part two of why you should have a coach.
Yeah.
And last week, we talked about our first 5 points, and that is a coach who will give you objective feedback and a fresh perspective. They will have the expertise and experience in the things that you want to accomplish in your business or whatever it might be. It might be a sport or your life or whatever it might be. They will provide you accountability and motivation. And I would also throw inspiration in there too. Motivation, inspiration, kind of interchange words there, but I think they're a little bit different. They should be able to provide you customized support for your situations, and they are a source for growth and development. A coach is supposed to help you develop in the areas you hired them for, whether it be for leadership, developing a certain skill, or whatever it might be. So those are the first 5 things. And today we're going to go over 5 more points.
Yeah, exactly. As Chris mentioned. So in this episode, part two of why you should have a coach, we're going to see the next 5 points. So the first one that we have is help with overcoming challenges. So business is full of challenges. We all know that. But with a coach by your side, you'll have someone to help you overcome them. So that's great. So they'll provide support and guidance to help you find solutions and keep moving forward. So
Mhm.
yeah, we mentioned that last week. Just having a coach will help you in those situations that you're struggling in everything. Maybe they won't give you the solution, but they're going to guide you to find the solution.
Right. Yeah. I would kind of, if a coach is always giving you solutions, they're really not allowing you to grow. Um,
Exactly.
so sometimes a coach may have experience. So for example, when we sold Pacific Rim, I had, the coach tell me, make sure you get insurance for this amount of time afterwards, because this is what happened to me. So in those situations, yeah, okay, tell me what to do, right? Because I
Yeah.
don't have the experience. But in my last couple of years of working with Steve and a few other people, um, you know, as you said, business is hard. There's always things popping up. And when those things pop up, a lot of times like, oh man, I'd never, experienced this before. I wasn't expecting this or whatever it might be. And it could cause a lot of frustration,
Yeah.
So I was like, there'd be times where I'm thinking like, you know what? I think it might be better, or not better. It might be easier. It would be easier if I were to just get a job instead of having a business, right? So instead of like having that conversation with my wife or a team member, because everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, he's going to shut the business down. We're not going to have a
Yeah.
job anymore," because those are just emotional reactions, right? So I would send Steve a text. I'm like, "Hey, Steve, I think I'm going to quit and get a job," and then he just kind of chuckles. He goes, "All right, let's take the emotion out of this. Let's think of it logically and see what the problem is, and let's come up with a solution for it." So whenever I send a text like that, I never mean it, because I'm never going to close the business. But sometimes you feel like it's like, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I just want to sleep. I want to relax. I don't want to. I want to rest my mind. So coach will help navigate you through that. So that was just a little experience on my end. And then the other part is, a coach really should be there also to help you brainstorm ideas. Like, it's always good to have brainstorming sessions with your team. Like you and I do it all the time. In
Yeah.
fact, we're going to do it after this podcast. We're going to brainstorm some ideas. But there's some things where you do need a coach to help you out, because you might be areas that, say, for example, you and I are not familiar with, that we're like, okay, we could come up with all these ideas, but are they good ones or are they bad ones? Like, do we have no idea? So I would have a lot of brainstorming sessions with Steve. There'd be times I go to his house, we'd have whiskey and a cigar and just sit in his backyard and just talk business ideas. And there's been a lot of great action items that came out of that, right? This
Yeah.
podcast, for one, where we got a few other ideas that we're going to be thinking about and taking it to action. So yeah, so helping with overcoming challenges is certainly a coach's job. That is like one of the top things a coach should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I like what you mentioned. Just sometimes, as we mentioned in last episode, they give you a fresh perspective. So sometimes I don't know, CEOs or leaders can make decisions based on emotions.
Yep.
And it can be like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like we're struggling on this issue and everything is bad, you know? And you need someone there like, hey, no, it's not as bad as it seems. Like, let's see it in another way and everything.
Hmm.
And they just give you this fresh perspective to overcome the challenges. So yeah, at the end of the day, everything is connected there. So yeah, I
Hmm.
also like what you said, just like the brainstorm ideas, like from
Right.
those sessions that you have with Steve or Pete, or yeah, I don't know, you get a lot of ideas out from it. And I just really like those, you know, like for example, we have meetings and you're like, Fernanda, I went with Steve and these are all the things that we need to do and all the ideas just popping out. So
Yep.
I don't know, it's pretty amazing. And I think that's a really good point on having a leader, like all the ideas and
Hmm.
the fresh perspective that is going to come out from it.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I
yeah.
would say, like, just kind of to tag on, or to piggyback on what you just said, for us, for people like me, you have to be careful of who you share this excitement and these ideas with, because your Fernanda's great because she'll go along with it, and then we'll just have these brainstorming sessions. And there's several people on the team that we can do that with, but there's some people who are like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Chris had another meeting with Steve, and he's got these grand ideas, so you got to be careful in who you share those with. Fernanda's, usually the first person on the team that I chat with, because first of all, you were my assistant, and now you're in the marketing side, so a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is growth and marketing, and so you're usually the first person I talk to on things like that. So make sure, if you're going to share it with your team, be careful, have that one person you can share everything with, but be selective on what you share with the team, and make sure this, when you share it with the team, make sure it's things that you're actually going to take action on and that you're going to go forward with.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go to the next advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So improve decision making and goal setting. So with a coach, you'll have someone to help you clarify your goals and make better decisions. So they'll provide you guidance on goal setting and help you create a roadmap for success. So you'll be able to make better and more informed decisions that will lead to better results.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good. And I don't know if it would be considered as coaching, but right now what we have with Patrick, just our CMO, is just, it's kind of coaching. It's just like working smarter, not
Mm-hmm.
harder. So
Yep.
it's really good that we have guidance in that area and everything. So we have kind of a, well, yeah, we have a marketing coach there, but
Yeah.
it's just pretty cool just to have someone with the experience, and that it's going to help us make the right decisions, and just like also the goal setting, because like you and I we're both new on marketing, so we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know like what should we track, or which goals should we look after, you know. It's just like we want
Right.
leads and that's it, but we don't know
Yeah.
what's before that or anything. So yeah, just having someone that is experienced on the field, that is going to help you, like, hey, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right now these are the goals that you can achieve, so let's go like baby steps and we're going to get there. So yeah, I think it's just you're working with purpose
Yep.
sometimes, you know.
Yep.
So I
Mm-hmm.
really like they help you with the decision making and goal setting.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Mhm.
sorry, but at the end of the day, like it's your decision, you know. Like for example, what you mentioned also for insurance and everything is like they're going to give you advices, but like you are going to know if you take them or not, you know. So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. We do have a CMO and a CFO, and they're a fractional, which means they're part-time. They have other clients that they're CFOs or CMOs with. And so, you don't have to have the label as coach to be a coach, but they are essentially coaching us. We're a small business, and they're coaching us. Dan on the CFO side with the finances, and saying, hey, these are, like, you saw all the work that we did in the finance
yeah.
department over this last year, and Dan was very instrumental in putting all that together. So we have routine reports, routine meetings that we have. We have a really good grasp on our financials. And that was really because Dan coached us through it. And now we have Patrick on the marketing side, who's doing the same thing for us in marketing. And you work closer with him on that. But like I said, you don't have to have that label as coach to be a coach. Like, for example, you coach me on social media stuff, right? And content. And you're like, hey, Chris, I know you spent a half hour on this 2-minute video, but it's not that great. So can you do it again? So, and then vice versa, I'll coach you on some things too, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to have that title as coach. Everyone can coach other people. But in my experience, as far as like goal setting and decision making, one thing that I liked when we went to the mastermind in the Mansion Mastermind with Steve back in June. I forgot what it was called. Something about Mansion and Mastermind that was in there. But a big exercise that we went through, I think it was a couple hours where we were like talking about our goals, what do we want to achieve in the next year? And then we break that down into, what are we going to do in the next 90 days? And it was a week by week type thing where we took some Post-it notes and we kind of mapped out what it was going to look like over the next 90 days. And that really forced us all that forced us all to really think of like, okay, how do we actually get to where we want to be? And it was a great exercise to go through that. And, we did that as a team here back in December for our 2023 goals. And then we came up with our first quarter goals on that. So a lot of that I learned from that mastermind, also from the EOS traction book. So, and the other thing is too, like every now and then there, as a business owner, there's always tough decisions that we need to make. And, so whenever I've got a tough decision, let's say, for example, a tough financial decision, gosh, should I do this and spend the money on it or not? I will go to Dan and say, hey, Dan, this is an unexpected expense. This is what it is, how much it is, and this is what it could do for us. What are your thoughts? And I get his thoughts on it. When it comes to the marketing side, for example, I'm going to a marketing event or a networking event on Saturday, and it costs money to go. And I sent that over to Patrick and like, hey, this event's on Saturday. My wife has given me permission to go, so that's a good thing. I said, what do you think? Is this something worth our time or in money, because it does cost money? And he goes, yeah, you know what? He did looking into it. He goes, yeah, if you can go, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to go. So, having those people that you can just send a quick text to or an email or whatever, and just ask them a quick question. For me, it gave me a peace of mind knowing that someone who knows better than me has helped me make a decision. And like you said, the decision ends with me or with us. And I remember when I was buying my truck, I was at the Ford dealership on a Saturday late afternoon, texting Dan, hey, Dan, this is what they're saying, so he was coaching me through that to deal with the salesman at the car dealership. And I was in Washington, he lives in Virginia. So, it's not like he could come to the dealership with me. So, people like that, you need to have them in your life, whether it be an official coach in a position or a fractional person on a team, or maybe it's just a team member. Like I said, you can coach me on social media stuff, and there's other people on our team that coach me in other areas too. So, but yeah, always have that person that you can reach out to whenever you have to make an important decision.
Yeah, exactly. And just as you mentioned, Chris, it doesn't have to be like a formal coach. Like, for example, you also are coaching me in a lot of stuff, like, for example, leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's just getting a coach on the things that you struggle the most, or that you find more difficult, and or that you don't have the experience, like, for example, in this case, marketing, that we were like, yeah, what should we do and everything, like, let's get a coach on that, because they're going to give us guidance. And yeah,
Yep.
I think it's great, and I really like what you said about the just sending them messages and everything, because sometimes when I'm stuck on something or I don't understand something from marketing, I asked Patrick, like, hey, Patrick, I'm stuck on this. Like, what should
Yep.
I do in this case?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, okay, so let's do some research and everything. Like, we'll get it fixed. Don't worry. I'm like, okay, perfect. So this
Yep.
is normal, And also, just like, I think in the finance side, also, uh, it's also the same thing, that sometimes we get worried because we see numbers or we see things and we're like,
Mhm.
start panicking. And I'm like, Patrick, is this supposed to be happening? And he's like, yeah, that's totally normal. Just it happens, so
Yeah.
just give it a couple of weeks or something and it'll
Yeah.
get fixed. I'm like, okay, perfect. So it happens, and just like for the peace of mind. So
Mhm.
I think I really like what you mentioned there, just like having someone that you can trust, and also that they're going to give you some guidance of those things, and
Yep.
that you are not alone, because if we were alone, for example, marketing or finance, I know we were going to be freaking out, like
Yep.
what are we
Mhm.
doing here? Or
Yep.
are we going out of business, or just are
Mhm.
we going to get any leads next month with the strategies that we're implementing? So it's
Mhm.
just like all that stuff together.
Yeah.
It makes really good to have a coach.
Yeah, it's funny you're bringing up all those things, and I was just thinking, like, what were we doing before Patrick, right? Because you and I,
Yeah.
we talk about it and like, let's try this or let's try that. Like and when I brought Patrick on, I told him, I said, we don't, we do have the discipline to do the work. We're doing the
Mhm.
work. We're probably doing a lot more than what we should be, but I don't know. Fernanda doesn't know. We're both new and we're learning as we go. And bringing him on the team, you're probably doing a lot of work at, like, you're just revising our website and things like that. But as we got the template and everything, I don't think we're working as much or doing as much as we've done before. Um, like especially like the content. So I don't know, it might be more on you. I'm just thinking, like, for me, I don't see I'm not getting that many tasks on the marketing side other than like, hey, we need a video for this week. Um, but we're definitely seeing the results, right? Because we've
Yeah.
talked about KPIs and measuring things, and we had a meeting earlier today where we went over our website visits, and our website visits are amazing right now. I mean, they could be better, but compared to what they've been, we're getting a lot of results, and that's a lot because we've been getting the proper coaching from someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to say, Fernanda, you're not working anymore with Patrick on the team.
Yeah.
but no, I don't know. It's just like, as you said, it's just like we're going off topic here, but
Yeah.
it's just when we started working like on the marketing side, I remember just doing all those website pages and everything. I was getting so frustrated seeing the analytics, and I was like, where are the website visits? Like we're
Hmm.
creating all those websites and like all those landing pages, and I'm not seeing any audience here.
Yep.
So having Patrick on the team is really helpful because he was like, okay, so the URL, did you check if we have some keywords? I was like, well, no, we don't have any keywords on our URL. Okay, so that's one thing. Meta description, keywords there? No, we don't have keywords also. Oh, okay, so another point. So it was
Yep.
just like check everything again, like having
Hmm.
that guidance again with the just putting there the coaching and the advantages from it. It's just
Hmm.
having someone there like, hey, what you're doing, it's okay, but we can make it better and we can make
Hmm.
it work. That's the
Hmm.
important part, that we're going to make it work. So it's really important. So yeah, I think right now it's like the same amount of work, but it doesn't feel that much because
Hmm.
I'm seeing progress, and I'm seeing
Yeah.
the numbers go up. So I
Yep.
think that's the main difference, just seeing that what you're doing is working. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's a good
think,
point. We probably should have a marketing podcast with Patrick on here. Yeah,
yeah,
because
that,
I
that
mean,
would be fun.
you and I can really speak to experience because we're still learning ourselves. But yeah, we should have Patrick on here and talk about that, and Dan too. Should bring Dan
Yeah.
on here. Anyway, back to the topic.
Okay. So let's go to the next advantage
Mhm.
that we have here. So it increased productivity and efficiency. So a coach can help you focus your efforts and prioritize tasks so you can work smarter, not harder. So
Mhm.
they'll help you increase your productivity and efficiency so you can get more done in less time. It's like having a time management expert for your business. So yes, just like what we were talking, just working smarter, not harder, and also they'll help you get to those goals in less time and everything. So yeah, I think that that's pretty important because right now that you mentioned that, I was thinking like, what should we be doing, or what would we be doing right now if we didn't have Patrick, just like the
Yeah.
same strategies and everything, but we
Mhm.
we wouldn't see the growth. So, or maybe I don't know, but it's just it increased productivity and efficiency.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because it's possible we could have gotten where we wanted to be. It just would have taken probably 10 times more of the work and money and frustration to go along with it before we actually got there, because we were putting in the work and we were learning as we went. But why not have someone who knows what they're doing to coach you along and say, hey, no, don't do that. You're wasting time or you're wasting
Yeah.
money. Just do these things, right? So now it's a little bit easier because we like, okay, we've got the guidance and we just follow the game plan and we'll see results, which we are. So but yeah, that's a coach's job, and then even a fractional team, right? I mean, this is kind of turning into a coach slash fractional team type podcast, but their job is
Yeah.
to come in and just check your business. They got to dig into your business and say, okay, how are you running your business? Tell me about that. They help identify areas that are not efficient. And in my case, I found that I was the bottleneck in so many areas. And so we identified that. And first of all, okay, kind of going back to the basics here, Steve had me do a time study. I think I talked about that last week. I remember talking about it to somebody. Maybe it was our podcast last week, or maybe it was during a meeting recently with someone else. But I did a time study for, gosh, how long was it? I think it was for 5 weeks. I did it with Steve, where I wrote down everything I did Monday through Friday, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to him, and he held me accountable to it, because every now and then I would send it like the morning after, and he goes, hey, you're supposed to send this to me last night. What happened? It's like, are you committed to this or not, type thing, right? So that was good. The accountability piece, I think we talked about that last week. But the time study, and then we looked at it and like, okay, what are the areas here that I'm spending a lot of time on that I really should be delegating to somebody else, right? Helping me be more efficient by delegating things that really should be done by a team member, allowing me to elevate my leadership, my level of leadership, to an area where I am actually going to be the CEO, not somebody who's working in the business all the time. So that was kind of the basic thing. And then we would look into, okay, what kind of systems do you have in place? Do you have any systems? If not, let's create them. Where are your bottlenecks in the company? And they should be really encouraging you to create these systems, hold you accountable to them, and not necessarily like, hey, send me your SOP on marketing. It's more of like, hey, did you get it done? Yes, I did. And then there's got to be a trust level there too, right? um
Yep.
so yeah, the systems, you put these SOPs in place, they would help you delegate, help the CEO elevate to a level where you should be to run the company. And then one person that I know who is very good at this, and this guy taught Pete and Steve about writing systems and processes in their company, is Errol Allen. Have you ever met Errol? He was, well, no, you
I
didn't
don't
meet him yet,
think
have you?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in my so I go to Pete's house mastermind once a month, and Errol is there. And Errol spoke at Steve's last event about systems and processes. So he's the expert on that. And I'm very fortunate to really be able to talk to him at least once a month. And I talk about elevation. I talk about our company. And whenever he speaks up and says, you should do this, or, hey, Chris, tell me about this, like, I really listen, because like, man, this guy taught Pete and Steve, and now he's spending time with me. And so I really, whenever he talks, I listen, because he's the expert. So those are, as far as like what a coach should be doing in regards to, how your business is being run. They need to make sure you're being efficient, you're being productive, and that you're delegating properly, and you're elevating yourself to a position, to a level where you should be the CEO that you should be for the size company that you have.
Yeah. Wow. That was really good. So yeah, I think I don't have any more comments on there. You said everything,
Okay.
Chris.
I said everything.
Yeah, you said everything. I was like, yeah, you took the words out of my mind. But so yeah, let's go to the next one.
Sure.
Leadership skills. Whether you're leading a team or working on your own, a coach can help you develop your leadership skills and abilities. So they'll provide you guidance on how to effectively lead and motivate others so you can take your business to the next level. So yeah, as you can see, everything is connected, like leadership skills with productivity, efficiency, time
Mhm.
management, accountability. So yeah, I think that's a pretty important part, and just like why so many business owners also hire a coach, because they want to improve their leadership skills, and they want to
Right.
be better leaders, just that way they can see more results on on his company or anything. And it's just like as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to lead my team. Like you can also lead yourself
Mhm.
and have your like be on your own, and still need to polish some leadership skills there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one thing that I tell the team all the time is that you don't have to be in a leadership position to lead. You can leave up the chain of command. There's been many times, Fernanda, that you were leading me and I was following. And I could say that about that to anybody on the team where, like, okay, they know what they're doing. I don't. So let me just follow their lead on this and trust that they're going to take us to a place where we need to be as a company. So you don't have to be in a leadership position to lead. So that's one thing. In regards to coaching, one of the first things, so that when I was a personal trainer a while ago, the first question we always had to ask was, what is your goal? I'm not going to go there and tell you to do this much on bench press when your goal is to run a marathon. Bench press
Yeah.
does not help you run a marathon. So the coach should come in and say, hey, what are your goals? What exactly do you want to accomplish with whatever it is you're doing with your business? And they should be able to say, okay, with your goals in mind, here are the things that we should do. Let's plan this out a little bit. And then in this case, it's leadership. So for example, our goal in the next 5 years is to be a $10 million business. And so Steve constantly asks me, he says, okay, what would a CEO of a $10 million business do today? Like, are you doing those things? Or are you still being a guy who's working in your business all day long? Because if so, you're not a $10 million CEO, right? So, and it's not just the, the day-to-day stuff. It's not tasks or anything like that. It's leadership, it's administrative, all that stuff, right? So we're talking specifically about leadership here. And then when with Phil, I would go to him sometimes. I'm like, hey Phil, I'm feeling a little disconnected with this particular thing in the company or with this particular person. And and Phil and I agree that whenever there's an issue, it's always a leadership problem. You look at leadership first. Okay. Am I leading properly? Am I, is there something that I'm missing? Am I not doing a good job coaching this person or leading this person? Or am I not putting leadership into a situation? Have I, um, you know, in my opinion, I may have delegated it, but I may have abdicated it instead, where I gave it to Fernanda to do and she's doing it. I'm like, okay, well, Fernanda's got it. That's her thing, that I can't do that. So a coach will help you recognize that and work you through that and say, okay, here are some steps that you need to take in order to step up your leadership. So yeah, if your coach is not touching on leadership, might be a bit of an issue there. I would want a coach who is teaching you skills, but you also have to have a leadership aspect in it too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is something really underrated, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, when I started just like in the marketing aspect, and like we have this teammate that is also a marketing, and you were like, hey Fernanda, this is kind of a leadership issue, like let's work on this, like you're also the leader, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I think that's pretty important, just because sometimes I don't know, when we're looking for a coach, we can be like, I just want these things to happen. I don't know, that they're good on marketing and that's it. Like
Right.
I just want to know marketing, you know. But we also have to recognize the leadership aspect, because if the coach that we're hiring or the coach that we're having is
Mm.
really bad at leadership, like they can be just a perfect marketing or finance or whatever it is, but if they're bad on leadership, like you're going to be stuck, you know. So
Yep.
I think that's a pretty
Exactly.
important point, that you have to look for a coach that it's great on leadership. And sometimes it doesn't matter if they have, well, it's prefer that they have experience on the field that you're looking for, right? But
Sure.
sometimes they don't have the experience, let's say in construction, but they're really good at leadership. So they can be like,
Hmm.
okay, maybe I'm not good at what your experience at, but I can give you all these advices and everything. Because at the end of the day,
Yep.
as we mentioned in the last episode, business is business. So
Hmm.
you want to get money, you want to grow your business, have a team and everything. So it doesn't matter if you're on the flower industry, construction industry, or
Hmm.
whatever. At the end of the day, it's going to be leadership and
Yep.
just growing business.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
yeah, let's go to the final one and just the last one that we have for today, the access to a network of resources and contacts. So I think I've
Hmm.
been benefiting from this too, from your
Yeah.
network
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
coaching sessions. So yeah, when you work with a coach, you'll have access to a network of resources and contacts that can help you grow your business. So your coach can connect you with the people and resources you need to succeed. So yeah, they're going to connect you with the right people.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just like having a secret network of business connections. And it's so cool. I really like
Yeah.
those things. And
Hmm.
I don't know, from what my experience is just when we went to, I think it was to Dallas,
Hmm.
and we went to this event and everything's just seeing everyone just connecting and everything, like just sitting on the table like we were at school, like for lunch, and like, what are you doing, what's your business about? Oh, okay, so
Hmm.
yeah, this is what my business about. It's just, it's changing cards and everything. It's just growing your network. So that's
Yep.
pretty amazing.
Exactly.
And it's just
Exactly.
because the network, your coaches like say sometimes can tell you like, hey Chris, you should go to this event, or I think it would be good if you can check this out, and then you can meet more people. So yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's a very good point. And not just use, but also your team.
Hmm.
Like you can connect also your team with some other people that it might benefit the
Yep.
company. So yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like for me, with Steve's network, one thing that he was saying at the beginning of coaching, he goes, not only do you have access to me, but you have access to the people that I have access to.
Yeah.
He's got access to a lot of people. He knows a lot of people. So, just a couple examples where, you he introduced me to Casey, because Casey's he owns Fabling Built in Virginia, and he's been doing it longer than we have. He's probably about 4, 5, 6 years ahead of us in business, and he's doing pretty good. So I can't remember how Steve introduced us, but I was doing something. He goes, "Hey, you should talk to my buddy Casey. He's in construction up in Virginia, and he could probably help you out." So, this is one of the scenarios where Steve doesn't know anything about construction. Well, I mean, not anything. He does know some stuff because he's flipped houses, but as far as like the business side and regular construction stuff, he's like, okay, I know construction guys, so why don't you talk to him, because you guys can share ideas, right? So Casey and I have been talking a lot, right? And Casey's he's the reason why we have a fractional CFO, Dan. And Casey is through his little circle of people on his team, we've got this podcast, and we have, the camera that I have and the microphone we have, like certain
Yeah.
things and then, I talked to Casey on Monday. We had a nice, half-hour conversation just about, how do we do estimates, how do we, do certain markups and things like that. So, I wouldn't have had a lot of this if I didn't have access to Steve's network. You know, Steve's introduced me to bigger name people that are, kind of they're, I don't want to say household names, but people who are in bigger pockets and that whole network, they know these people. And I've been able to text them and have conversations with them about certain things whenever I have a question about something. And then, Tony Capullo, and, meeting him, and then access to his network. And I've been able to talk to Weldon Long over text message every now and then. So yeah, it's the saying that your net worth equals your network, or vice versa, is absolutely true. There's no way you can grow a business without a good network. And I would have to point towards my network for the reason why we're been as successful as we have so far. And a lot of that is just kind of like going through Steve, you know? So, but yeah, anyway, a coach, if they don't have a good network, if they're not introducing to people that could help you out and where you can talk peer to peer, then maybe you should find another coach.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I really like what you mentioned, just meeting new people, like for example, Casey. Like you're having a bunch of new coaches there, you know, that they have the experience and everything. Maybe you're not paying them, maybe you're not like hiring them as official
Right.
coaches, but at the end of the day, they are coaching you like on some stuff. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's great also. Like it doesn't have it doesn't have to be expensive or just like, oh, I'm not going to. And that's what we talked about in last episode. Coaches are not an expense, they're an investment if you see it
Right.
that way. But like sometimes you're like, yeah, right now I'm not in the position just to spend that much money or anything. But like you can talk with other people and just get ideas, and also say ideas and get like constructive feedback. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also coaching. Like for example, what you have
Yeah.
with Casey, that you're like, hey Casey, like have you done this or something? And maybe Casey also ask you for advice or anything. So
Yeah.
you're not hired as official coach, but
Right.
you're also giving some coaching lessons there. So I think
Yep.
that that's very important also from growing your network.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just giving a little summary of all the episodes that we've had. So yeah, I think that it's pretty important to have a coach, and some business owners don't see uh the benefit out from it, you know, like as
Yep.
we mentioned, they just say like, yeah, it's just money spent, it doesn't matter why I'm going to spend like this much money on having a coach, you know.
Yep.
But it can get you to so much things, and also get you to accomplish the goals like in an easier way, or just like, well, faster, because you have
Mm-hmm.
the guidance. So yeah, if you're struggling with some things, if you're uh I don't know, undecided if you should hire a coach or not, just see on all the things that you can accomplish long term, because sometimes we only worry about like what's happening now and what's going to happen like in the short term. But
Right.
just see it on the long term and see if it's I don't know, the good option for you, the right fit. And
Mm-hmm.
also, as Chris mentioned, and like we've been mentioning on last episode and also on this one, just find the right coach for you, because like there are many coaches out there, and not everyone can be the fit for you, you know. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, just look for someone that you're like, I don't know, we have good chemistry, like we talk about these things, I like
Right.
his guidance and everything. Like I think it's going to be good to have that person on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it doesn't, and don't feel obligated, you know, like, oh, I had this interview with this coach and I didn't like it, but maybe I'll like him like in 2 weeks or 1 month, we'll see how it works. Because sometimes we can be like embarrassed on saying like, yeah, you're not the right fit for me. But I think that's
Yeah.
very important, just saying like, yeah, it's just, I think it's not going to work from what I saw and everything, you know, like
Yep.
be brave on that side.
Yeah. So when I officially hired Steve, you know, I had known him for 2 years, like not like I know him now. But you know, I had his phone number, I had access to him, and you know, he's very generous. I could have asked him anything. And then when I talked to him about the coaching, I was still, you know, to be completely open, when I first when he first mentioned that that's what he was doing, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's going to be expensive. So I don't think I'm going to do that. Right. I was doing the expense thing rather than the invest
Yeah.
thing. And so, but as time went on, I talked to other people. You know, I talked to Pete, and then I sat in a bus on a tour. We're touring houses here in Houston, and it was during Steve's boot camp session. And I said, "Hey, Steve, where you sitting?" He goes, "I'm going to sit in the back." I'm like, I sat in the back and I talked to him the entire time. And I said, well, what about this? What about this? Like I was, in a way interviewing him. I'm like, I want to make sure that, if I'm putting money to this, what does the program look like? What are we going to achieve through coaching like this? And it was great because, to be honest, when I first had the conversation with him, I don't think I was going to do it, but I was curious. And just talking to him and kind of getting a picture of what could be, really inspired me and pushed me over the fence. So like, okay, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to do it. Yeah, it's an investment. And to be honest, it scared me, but we're still in business. I'm still thriving. We're doing pretty well. And then, I moved to Houston. So,
Yeah.
that was my whole process. But I guess my point is that when you do hire a coach, you do need to have that interview process of like, what does coaching look like? What kind of things are going to go through? How could you help me achieve my goals? And even with Phil, I've known Phil. I served in Afghanistan with him, and it was easy with Phil because I had already experienced time with observing and working under his leadership. So that was an easy thing for me. I really didn't have to interview him because I kind of interviewed him 10 years ago in Afghanistan. So that was pretty easy, and I knew him already. So it was kind of a good, unique situation. But definitely, you want to interview these people to make sure that they have your best interests in mind, that they're just not out for the money, that they actually have some sort of like curriculum in a way, like a process of, we're going to go through the basics first. We're going to do this, and this, like Steve did the, time management, SOPs. Let's talk about your team and disc profile. Where's your org chart? All the basic stuff. Okay, we got that locked in. Now let's talk about the other stuff. And it was kind of like, hey, we have an hour. What do you want to talk about? It got to that point, right?
Yeah.
So but you have to work through those basics. And if the coach doesn't have basics, if it's just like, hey, this is our first session, what do you want to talk about? That's not a coach. That's not a coach. That's just someone you want to have coffee with. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the importance of asking questions, like
Yeah.
you're paying for something, you're paying for a service, like ask
Mhm.
questions. Don't be ashamed. Like, I don't know, they're going to say that I talk too much, or like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm going to ask too many questions, everything. Like, no, like ask too many questions, like interview
Yep.
the coach. That way you're going to be 100% sure that they're
Mhm.
going to be the right fit for you.
Exactly. And if they say you're asking too many questions, then don't work with them.
Exactly.
But yeah, all good points. But yeah, so I'm a firm believer in coaches. I'm always going to have a coach. If you look at all the successful people in the world, they had a coach, they still have coaches. You really want to try to be a better version of yourself every day. I know that, everyone says that and it sounds great and it's a great meme you see on Facebook or Instagram, but the reality is you really should be striving for that.
Yeah.
You can only get so much from reading books and listening to podcasts. You can't talk to a book. You can only read it and learn from it. You can't talk to a podcast, but you could talk to a coach and ask questions, and the coach can like really customize, like we we're talking about, customize something that is unique to you for your situation to help you become better. So that's why I think getting a coach is the best solution to becoming a better version of you, whether it be in a sport, learning a skill, leadership, running a business, whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just at the end of the day, you're competing with yourself.
Yep.
So you need to get better. You need to be better. So
Mm-hmm.
having someone there that is going to guide you through the right path, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be helpful. You're going to accomplish your goals. So yeah, I think that's it for today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you're still not convinced that you should get a coach, like listen to this episode again, because we hit some really good points.
Yeah, if you
So
don't want to coach after this, then just be prepared to just stay where you are for the rest of your life. And it's boring,
yeah,
learn to
exactly.
love
Like
your boring life.
exactly. Like we put a lot of effort in this episode.
Yeah,
So if you're still like, yeah,
exactly.
I'm not getting a coach, I don't know what's happening with you, because we put a lot of effort in this
Yeah,
on
exactly.
this
We're
point.
really selling it.
Exactly. Like maybe that's the next business, just like marketing for coaches. But
There you go. Exactly.
but
Cool.
yeah, it was fun, and just
Hmm.
thank you, Chris, also for talking with me
Yeah.
on this episode and everything. It was
That's-
really good.
Yeah, it was. It was a good one. So that's why we broke it up in two, because it would have been a good 2 hour podcast. So yeah,
Yeah,
good choice
exactly.
to break it up into 2 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Like people may be like just waiting for the next episode. So
Yep.
there they have it. So yeah, just thank you everyone for listening to this episode. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care and stay virtual. Thank you.